What's up, guys? It's Lou from Unbox Therapy, and as mentioned in my last video, the UPS man brought something very interesting to my door today, the PlayStation Vita or PS Vita, depending on which you prefer. And this came from all the way around the world, halfway around the world, whatever you want to say, from Japan, the land of the rising sun, where this launched early. Everywhere else in the world, basically, it's launching in February. I said, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet, pay a little bit extra, and get this thing unboxed on the channel so that we could share in this consumption. You could get some vicarious thrills, and I could do this unboxing properly because I'm sick of those other ones that are out there on the market. I'm going to get you up close and personal. So on the back of the box, the first thing you're going to notice is Japanese language, which, of course, you'd expect, being that it came from there, as well as some accessories that will likely be available here as well once this officially drops in North America and elsewhere in the world. But that's not what you care about. You care about the device. You want to get closer. You want to get a proper unboxing video, and that's what we're working on right now. Of course, we're going to have to go through a couple of more boring items like this paperwork here that is also in Japanese and also useless. But something I want to mention to all of you is that if you are thinking of importing, the US manual has been released online by Sony, which will help you get this thing up and running, so you don't need to count on this Japanese literature right here. So you can basically chuck this stuff over to the side and forget it ever existed. The next thing you've got is the charging cable, which appears to be a proprietary charging cable. That's unfortunate, but you've got to expect it from Sony, with a USB on the other end. And then you've got a pretty straightforward power cable, two-prong adapter. You know, in Japan, they use the same standards that we do here, so you'd expect it to work no problem. And then here is the power brick, PlayStation branded, USB on one side, and that two-prong adapter on the other, as I mentioned earlier. Now I'm going to put the Vita to the side for a second because there is one more piece of paperwork in here. I'm going to go ahead and guess that this is probably a warranty card or something along those lines. But once again, it's done up in Japanese, and my Japanese is weak. So if yours is any better, you let me know if I was right as far as my speculation is concerned. So here it is. This is the bread and butter, the important item. This is what you all came to see, the main attraction, if you will, the PlayStation Vita. And I'm going to tell you guys straight away, the weight of this thing is perfect. It feels really good in my hands. I have probably average to large size hands, and it doesn't feel small at all. In fact, it feels a lot more comfortable than the Nintendo 3DS, at least for me. You've got some really smooth joysticks, and again, my fingers can easily reach without feeling cramped every button there is to reach. The back has some nice soft touch finishes, as well as some glossy components, which will probably get a few fingerprints on them, but that's pretty standard these days when you're dealing with gloss. Here's a closer look. You can see one of the stereo speakers as well as the D-pad, and you can also get a better look at that joystick and the PlayStation button below that. That's obviously going to be used for most of your navigation within the operating system, and you've got the Sony branding up along the top side of the left-hand side of the device. As we pan over across that nice 5-inch screen, you'll see we've got our regular PlayStation buttons as well as our other stereo speaker, the start, select button, and of course another smooth joystick. You'll also notice a forward-facing camera up there. There is also a rear-facing camera on this device, although I do hear they are not fantastic quality. They're kind of on par with the 3DS as far as camera quality is concerned. So here's a better look from the top down on the device, and you'll get a better look here at the overall size of it. Here's a better look, again, at that left-hand side, that PS button. And as I mentioned earlier, guys, the main objective here is to make you feel as though you've got it yourself in your hands, and you would really be inspecting every element of the device, not like a quick unboxing video where you kind of just glance through it. No, you'd be holding it, you'd be looking around, you'd be interested in everything this device had to offer. The back has a cool pattern on it. You've got the triangle, square, circle button, etc., and there's that rear facing camera that I mentioned mentioned earlier. It's a little bit better than the forward-facing one, but neither of them are really going to replace your camera, if you know what I'm saying. So you've got your shoulder buttons on top as well as your power button, nice metallic power button. This is where you're going to insert your games. It's labeled PS Vita, and then the next one is actually an expansion port, which may be used for video out. Nobody knows yet, or it may just be used for other accessories. I believe they're calling it an accessory port in the official documentation. And then beside there, you've got your volume up and down. These volume buttons are incredibly reminiscent of the iPhone buttons, as The Verge pointed out actually when I read their review. On the bottom, you've got your charging port, and then beside that, you've got your headphone/headset port, which you're probably going to want to use because the speakers are not fantastic on here, as you might imagine. And then beside that is where you're going to insert memory cards. Now, memory cards are pretty important in this situation. That's where you're going to download some game content too, as well as game saves. Some games, for example, like Uncharted, absolutely require a memory card, and you got to use, obviously, Sony's proprietary options. So once you get it booted up, the very first thing you're going to do is select a language. And the first thing I notice is just how responsive the capacitive touchscreen is. One thing I want to mention, if you intend on using the PlayStation Store, assuming you imported this device, make sure to select Japan as your location. So select English as your language, but then Japan as your location. That'll give you access to the Japanese PlayStation Store for the Vita, which currently is the only one that's operating. If you select any other country, it's going to tell you there's nothing available for your region. So if you want to get, Ridge Racer or Hot Shots Golf or any of the stuff that's in the store, you're going to want to make sure to select Japan as your location, even though English is your language. It won't affect the language anywhere else in the operating system. So here's a quick look at the web browser. You've got this cool sort of jello effect when you get to the end of a page. Now, I was surprised. The web browser is actually somewhat responsive. The whole device actually feels pretty quick overall. Now, granted, it's not loading up any of the ads on my web page, so it is skipping out a little bit on some of the content, especially some of the heavy Flash-based content, which I don't believe it can load, because in a few minutes here, I'll actually go ahead and load up YouTube, and I don't really get very much. You can actually have multiple windows open. You can search right from here or from anywhere, and you can also view your history within that web browser from this same location. The PS button will bring you back out to your main menu. I'll go ahead and show you guys what the settings look like. Within the settings, you can set up things like your PlayStation Network account as well as your Wi-Fi network, which is obviously really important. The very first thing that happened when I went to sign into PSN is it asks me to do an update, and in order to do that, obviously, you need Wi-Fi, so pretty important stuff. And here's another look at one of the interfaces. This shows you everything you've got open at one time. Now, remote play is a cool feature that everyone's talking about. I'm going to go ahead and try this as soon as I'm done editing this video here, but basically it allows you to continue your games on your PlayStation 3 right on your Vita, so that's a killer feature, assuming it works the way it's advertised. And again, there's a number of other things on the main screen here. I'm not going to cover absolutely everything. This is a little startup sort of guide, tutorial, if you will, going over some of the features and functions that the PS Vita has built in. It actually does have an accelerometer, gyroscope type thing where it can sense your movements. And this little tutorial here is actually kind of fun. It's a game as well as a tutorial, so it teaches you how to use those different functions. I'm assuming that full release games are going to take advantage of some of these features at some point, so it's cool to just sort of get up to speed on what the device is capable of. I'm not very good at this particular tutorial. The other thing I really like is the keyboard. The keyboard is really responsive, and it's a good size, as you'd imagine, with a 5-inch screen. But one of the downsides I'm noticing right now is the fact that YouTube doesn't function, at least not the full-on YouTube.com. Maybe that will change once this device is fully released, in North America and the other major markets in the world. We'll have to wait and see, or maybe there'll be an app released at some point. Who knows? But this is where we're at right now. Obviously, there are going to be some kinks that you're going to have to work through if you choose to import this yourself. But I wanted to get you guys up close and personal with the device because it is out. It's out there in the wild, in the world, and you deserve to get a better look at it. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this content, hopefully you can like and favorite this video, as it does help me out a bunch. If you're thinking about getting a Vita, or importing it, then make sure to add this video to your favorites so you can go over some of those tips and things that I covered. Otherwise, if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. I've got a lot more content planned, cool products coming in, as well as some other PlayStation Vita videos on their way. So anyway, guys, until next time, and as always, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting my channel. Without you guys, I couldn't do this. And until then, I'll see you around. Until my next video. All right, later, guys.